World Cup, and we did it.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
So a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
The biggest democratic exercise in the world. Team NDTV covers it from ground zero.
BJP really had to fight a tough election this time.
Unprecedented exercise. Unmatched coverage.
There is no dispute. जनता को decide करना है.
From polling to counting, NDTV brought you the most trustworthy news and updates. Elections mean NDTV.
Get ready for the ride of your life. NDTV brings you the NDTV Auto Show with me, Mugdha Mishra. From the fastest supercars to the sleekest new energy vehicles to your trusted daily ride, we cover it all. Every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the headlines we're tracking at the moment. The visit of British Foreign Secretary David Lammy to India in the first month of the new UK government has sent a clear signal to New Delhi that it is eager to conclude a free trade agreement between both countries. The British Foreign Secretary has said Labour is ready to go on the deal. Former US President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are tied in the crucial swing states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. This is according to a new Fox News poll, while a previous swing state poll by Emerson College found the two tied in 4 of 5 battleground states. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni vowed to relaunch relations with China during her first visit to Beijing since taking office, announcing that she has signed a 3-year plan to deepen cooperation. Bitcoin hits a 6-week high in the wake of Trump's pro-crypto speech. Bitcoin has hit its highest level in more than 6 weeks after Trump said at the weekend that he would end the persecution of the crypto industry if he wins the US presidential election. United States will send $1.7 billion in military aid to Ukraine. This is what officials have announced, including an array of munitions for air defense systems, artillery, mortars, and anti-tank and anti-ship missiles. Nicolas Maduro's claim of victory in Venezuela's presidential election has brought the South American country to a hazardous standoff, with his thwarted opponents accusing him of rigging the election to remain in power, and many leaders in the region and beyond questioning the transparency of the vote. Our big focus, the visit of British Foreign Secretary David Lammy to India in the first month of the new UK government has sent a clear signal to New Delhi that it is eager to conclude a free trade agreement between both countries. In a speech shortly before the election, David Lammy had said Labour is ready to go on the deal, adding that he saw the free trade agreement as the floor, not the ceiling in the relationship. Beyond the specifics of the deal itself, the FTA is also important in symbolizing a renewed commitment by both countries towards the bilateral relationship. For further clarity, we have with us Jayant Krishna, Senior Fellow from the Strategic and International Studies, CSIS US. Thank you so much, as always, Mr. Krishna, for joining us. Always a pleasure to chat with you early in the morning. Not everything has gone smoothly so far, though, especially the inability to conclude this trade deal under the previous government, missing the initial deadline of Diwali 2022. But realistically, sir, before the end of the calendar year, do you see a concrete FTA on the radar?
I'm very optimistic. I see that happening, because a lot of homework has already happened with the earlier governments in India and in London and in UK. 13 rounds of negotiations have already happened. 14th round had commenced, but, the elections were announced in both the countries. So I think there are few irritants which are still there. As far as India is concerned, India would like to see, a greater access for Indians in UK, especially in IT, healthcare, and these kind of services, mobility issues I'm talking about. And of course, they would like market access for many categories of goods at nil or very, very low custom duty. On UK side, there are still a few irritants in terms of cut in import duties and especially some of the products which are very, very close to their hearts. Is Scotch whiskey, electric vehicles, lamb meat, chocolates, confectionery, and so on and so forth. So I think these things are to be resolved. Otherwise, most of the things have been sorted. The mobility issue is talked about quite a lot, the visa issues and so on and so forth. Let me clarify that India is not expecting the moon. All India is saying is that there is a mode 4 of GATS, which is a general agreement on trade and services under the WTO regime. And what they're saying is whatever intercompany transfers are, allowed, those should be made easier, especially the Indian professionals moving to UK. So I think that should happen. And there have been enough signals, the Trade Secretary and the labor, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, and Jonathan, the Trade Secretary, they've all spoken in favor of this. Today the bilateral trade between the two countries stands at around 38 billion British pounds, and it has the scope to be taken to a very, very different level. Right. A lot of people earlier believed that when Labour Party comes to power, things may not be as good, but that's not the case. In fact, in their manifesto itself, they've talked about a new strategic relationship with India. So I'm somehow very hopeful as long as these irritants are done, because if we do not conclude it fast, then what happens? Even the earlier rounds, whatever things you have come to an agreement to, people both sides try to gravitate back to them. So I think it's important. Time is very, very important here.
Right. So then, sir, do you agree that the UK needs a strategy for India that actually goes beyond the free trade agreement? Whether it's progress in areas ranging from tech, defense, and the energy transition, to actually taking practical steps in difficult areas, like you mentioned, UK's visa policies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to some extent, visa policies are covered in FTA also. It is not just about goods. I mean, if you look at there are 26 chapters in the proposed FTA, it has on goods, services, investments, intellectual property rights. So a lot of things are covered. And you're right. There's the life beyond FTA. FTA would happen, but I think it's extremely important that both countries look at it. As the UK has said, that it is not just a floor. It is just even if FTA happens, it will just be a floor, starting a few steps, but not a ceiling for sure. I think. So I think, yes, a comprehensive strategy, but I know, to be fair, it's a new government, at least in India. The same government continues with slight changes here and there, right. Especially trade and commerce, industry, finance. The key portfolios remain the same on our side. But their side, there's a complete change of the party and the functionaries. To allow them some time, I think it's bound to whatever they have talked about in their manifesto about a new strategic relationship. I'm sure it will see the light of the day sooner than later.
Meanwhile, sir, for India, the conclusion of a deal could grant New Delhi more leverage, right, in negotiations with other more significant trade partners such as the European Union, which are ongoing?
I would presume, if UK-India concludes, it will give us, better stance and posturing on the negotiation table with not only European Union but some other countries, like with the US. For example, there is no FTA being talked about, but there are a lot of trade irritants which remain between the two countries. So I think UK is it's not all that small an economy. It's the fourth largest exporter, and the total goods of their exports, not to India but all over the world, they add up to almost 855 pounds sterling. So I think surely, I think if this happens, it will happen. Even with Australia, for example, there is one FTA which has happened, but that's still at a broad level, at a high level. I think the next level of detailing, to my mind, is yet to be done. So surely with EU, Australia, and no FTA with US, but a lot of other trade irritants, as I said earlier, they need to be resolved. So I think I'm very hopeful,
Well, thank you so much as always, Jayan Krishna, for joining us on The World 24/7. India is also watching whether the new Labour government in the UK has the means and motivation to sustain the previous administration's Indo-Pacific tilt, given its fiscal constraints and preoccupation with other foreign policy priorities. With that, let's turn our attention now to the United States. Elon Musk shared a deepfake video spoofing Vice President Kamala Harris on X. And despite owning the platform, the post appears to violate the platform's own policies against synthetic and manipulated media. The video Musk shared actually alters a recent campaign video Harris released, one that makes it sound like the presidential candidate said things she did not. The manipulated clip has Kamala Harris saying things like she is the ultimate diversity hire and that she had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. The original account that had posted the video labeled it Kamala Harris campaign ad parody, a disclaimer that might prevent it from violating X's policies. But this context did not appear in Elon Musk's repost.
We are ready to win in November.
In a new twist to an already chaotic election, Twitter and Tesla CEO Elon Musk has found himself in one of the most troubling issues facing the upcoming US elections: deepfake videos.
I know Donald Trump's tight.
Fight, fight, fight.
The billionaire CEO shared an altered campaign video of the US Vice President Kamala Harris in which her voice was manipulated using AI technology. The video seamlessly mimicked the presumed Democratic presidential nominee to falsely depict her saying that President Biden is senile and that Harris is a diversity hire that does not know anything about running the country.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist.
In this election, we each face a question.
The altered video is entirely contrary to the original posted by Harris's campaign titled We Choose Freedom, which focused on her key campaign themes and proposals. The original video garnered 22 million views, whereas the fake that was reshared by Musk has accumulated 129 million views and counting. The AI-altered video, which was originally shared by ex-user Mr. Reagan, was captioned as a parody, while Musk's reshare did not have any disclaimer. Many have come out saying that Musk's post was in violation of X's policies that prohibits synthetic, manipulated, or out-of-context media that may deceive or confuse people and lead to harm. California Governor Gavin Newsom also responded, stating that manipulating voices in ads such as the altered campaign video should be illegal and that he would be signing a bill in the coming weeks to ensure that it is. Musk was quick to respond, saying that parodies were legal in America. As the U.S. elections draws closer with less than 100 days to go, artificial intelligence is becoming a pressing issue in U.S. politics. The deepfake shared by Musk is an example of the capabilities of AI, which can often go unnoticed and ultimately hinder voter trust in a time that voter apathy is already on a steady decline across the globe. Samia Afsar for NDTV World.
In staying with news from the United States, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper pulled out of Vice President Kamala Harris's shortlist for a running mate in the 2024 election. Now, why does this matter? It's because Roy Cooper has been viewed as a prime pickup that could help secure a Democratic victory in North Carolina and significantly narrow former President Trump's path to winning the White House. By the way, Roy Cooper and Kamala Harris have had a strong relationship dating back to their time serving as Attorneys General. And the big picture is that the Democratic Party has not won a statewide race for federal office in North Carolina since former President Obama and US Senator Kay Hagan won the state in 2008. Cooper, though, has never lost an election in his decades-long political career, so he could have been key to the party's ambitions in the state. Well, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust. Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day this lecture hall will be made of code, and driverless cars would be trapped in intersections. But even in this maze of the future, you can't wish away health. It's time to become more resilient. "10 years of Banega Swasth India, we have grown and achieved so many milestones. And now I have a plan to beat the urgency, to stop breathing with difficulty, to relieve getting choked with inactivity. Energize our government, our environment, our society, and ourselves. Everyone, everywhere, every day. Banega Swasth India. One world hygiene.
After a great victory by Indian team, and today we are reporting from Mohali International Airport where we are showing these visuals. Arshdeep हमारे साथ हैं. बहुत ही performance आई सारे दी थे बढ़िया results मिले.
We are in the city of Kanpur today because they have their champion back home, Kuldeep Yadav.
Desperation for each and everyone to go there and win the World Cup, and we did it.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Welcome back. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni vowed to relaunch relations with China during her first visit to Beijing since taking office, announcing that she has signed a 3-year plan to deepen cooperation. Now, after meeting Chinese Premier Li Qiang on Sunday, Ms. Meloni said the trip demonstrated the will to start a new phase. According to a statement released by Li's office, though, the two countries aim to increase mutually beneficial cooperation between small and medium-sized enterprises in the fields of shipbuilding, aerospace, new energy, as well as artificial intelligence. But Italy, which is China's 4th largest trading partner in the European Union, remains keen to pursue a strong economic relationship with Beijing. To further understand the ramifications, we have with us Shairi Malhotra, Associate Fellow from the Observer Research Foundation. Thank you so much for making time for us on the World 24/7. Now, while Giorgia Meloni has been a vocal critic of China in the past, now China has asked Italy to play a constructive role in promoting a positive and stable relationship with Europe during this visit. What have been some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, thank you firstly for having me on your show. So just to give you a bit of context, this is Prime Minister Meloni's first visit to China since she took over 2 years ago. And Italy's exit from China's Belt and Road Initiative, I would say, is really at the heart of this trip. In 2019, Italy had joined the BRI, and this had raised concerns amongst Western countries because of worries that China would take control of Italian strategic and critical infrastructure such as telecoms, ports, etc. And Italy's participation in the BRI was very significant because it was the only major EU economy to join the initiative. The other European countries that had joined were a lot smaller. Italy was also the only G7 member to join at a time when China's ties with the West were fraying. So, we need to understand in the context of this visit why Italy joined the BRI in the first place and why it exited from the BRI. So if you look at the Italian economy, it was struggling for many years, since the 1990s, in fact, and the BRI investments were seen as a means to revitalize Italy's economy. It was expected that the BRI would increase Italian exports to China. Italy would gain greater access to the Chinese market. But if you look at the outcome of Italy's membership in the BRI for 4 years, it didn't really accrue any substantial economic benefits to Italy. So this visit, in a sense, is really to cultivate economic collaboration with China, relaunch bilateral cooperation outside the BRI framework. Even though Italy left the BRI, the exit was never really intended to be a deal breaker in terms of ties with China from Italy's side. Because if you recall the manner in which Meloni and her government exited the BRI, they did it in a very low-key fashion. They were very careful. They made it clear that even while exiting, they wanted to upgrade ties with China outside the scope of the BRI framework through a mutually beneficial partnership. And this is what this visit really aims to do.
Right. Would you then say that what Meloni achieved in her China trip this week is a win-win for both countries?
I think to a certain extent, yes, because as I mentioned earlier, Italy has been battling economic woes. The average growth rate in Italy, it's been consistently lower than the EU average. So the focus of this visit has really been economics. Chinese investments are still seen as a way to improve Italy's economic growth. China is Italy's second largest trading partner after the US. So the economic relationship with Beijing continues to be important to China. Italy is very keen to attract Chinese investment. Given that Chinese investment in Italy has been less than countries such as Germany and also less than Italian FDI in Italy, this visit is really a way to try and correct some of this imbalance.
Right. Also, Giorgia Meloni's visit came as the European Commission is seeking to reduce its economic reliance on China. But diplomatic observers said individual EU member states were also still keen to engage. What is your reading of the situation?
Well, if you look at, if you go back to 2019 again, the same period when Italy joined the BRI, that was also the time when the European Union released its, China outlook strategy, where it called China a partner, competitor, and a systemic rival. Since then, we've actually seen European attitudes towards China hardening. We've also seen EU member states being guided by the tone that has been set by the European Union's policy towards China. At the same time, while EU member states do support the EU's approach, they are also trying to balance their own relations with China depending on their national and economic interests. Meloni is not the only European leader to be visiting China in the midst of these tensions. We saw German Chancellor Scholz visit China early this year, where the focus was again on trade, rebalancing Germany's ties with China. Last year, we saw President Macron as well visiting China, where he signed business deals, etc. So the Chinese market continues to, be an allure for European countries, despite the recent tensions. So I would say that Meloni, her visit may somewhat appear to undermine EU cohesion, but it's really something that many European leaders have been doing. If you look at things like the EU probe in China's electric vehicles industry, Italy has in fact supported the European Commission's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. And I would really say that Meloni is herself taking this very same EU message to Beijing, that Beijing needs to rectify its unfair trade practices. It needs to create a more equitable environment for Italian companies. And the 3-year action plan that has been signed, in fact, stresses the importance, again, of balanced and mutually beneficial relationships. This is something that the EU is also trying to achieve with China. So she's really sort of carrying the EU message along.
Well, Shari Malhotra, what a pleasure to hear your views. Thank you so much for joining us on The World 24/7.
Thank you so much for having me.
With that, let's turn our attention to the US sending new military aid to Ukraine. Now, this package is valued at around $1.7 billion that features air defense munitions, artillery rounds that Kyiv's forces say they desperately need. The aid also includes $200 million in equipment that will be drawn from existing US military stocks and will also reach the battlefield quickly, as well as about $1.5 billion in new orders that will take longer to arrive. This is what the Defense Department has confirmed. Switching tracks, Bitcoin's price surged above $70,000 for the first time since early June, but was met with a wave of selling, causing it to plunge more than 3%. The cause of the price movement is unclear, but it may be related to the US government's movement of over $2 billion in seized Bitcoin connected to the Silk Road dark web marketplace. But this massive transfer has reignited concerns about increased selling pressure on the cryptocurrency. Experts say it's hard to be outright bearish after one of the most significant crypto events happened over the weekend, but Donald Trump, speaking at the Bitcoin 2024 conference, he vowed to maintain and never sell the US government-seized Bitcoin, proposing the creation of a strategic national Bitcoin reserve to keep up with global competitors like China. With that, let's turn our attention now to Paris, where a confident Manu Bhaker has positioned herself for a chance at a second Olympic medal as she and Sarabjot Singh prepare to compete in the bronze playoff for the 10-meter air pistol mixed team event. The Indian men's hockey team will face Ireland in their third pool match, while archers, shuttlers and boxers will also be in action. Meanwhile, Manika Batra is now the first Indian table tennis player to reach the round of 16 in Olympic singles competition. Rika Roy joins us with a lowdown from Paris.
So Manu Bhaker gave India a grand opening on Sunday with the bronze medal she won at the Chateauroux Ranges in 10-meter air pistol event. She once again shoots in the mixed team event with Sarabjot Singh, hoping to get India another medal. So that could be the second medal for India from this edition of the Olympic Games. Apart from Team India, there has been a lot of talk on the 206, 205, I would say, NOCs, other NOCs who are taking part in this edition of the Games. And the biggest talking point here in Paris right now is the triathlon event. Even 24 hours before the event, it wasn't sure whether it could go on. Experts were still saying that they want to measure the bacterial levels in the Seine River before the events start. There is one part of the city which is an artificial lake called Bassin de la Villette, where locals have been taking a dip, and they say that the water is cold but refreshing. It is refreshing news for the organizers. However, they are still skeptical whether the triathlon event can go on. During the opening ceremony, there were showers that may have raised the pollution levels in the river. Also, there are predictions of thunder showers over Paris, which is why the organizers want to finish the triathlon events as soon as possible. Apart from this, the other big event that happened on Monday was a tennis match between Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, in which Djokovic won in straight sets. This was this was the 60th and perhaps the last singles meeting between the two legends. So lots happening in and around Paris. Well, Tom Daley, the British diver, in fact returned to action after 2 years of break following his medal in the Tokyo Games, because his 6-year-old son wanted to see his dad compete at Olympics once again. He was in synchronized diving with Noah Williams, and he and Noah Williams were impressive across all 6 of their dives, but they ended up with a silver medal from this edition of the Games. Also, Great Britain's Adam Petty narrowly missed out on 100-meter breaststroke gold. Petty has been detected with COVID-19. He has tested positive for COVID-19 and has been isolated as well.
Well, thank you so much for investing your time and watching this episode of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
The biggest democratic exercise in the world. Team NDTV covers it from ground zero.
BJP really had to fight a tough election this time.
Unprecedented exercise. Unmatched coverage.
There is no dispute. जनता को decide करना है.
From polling to counting, NDTV brought you the most trustworthy news and updates. Elections mean NDTV.
Get ready for the ride of your life. NDTV brings you the NDTV Auto Show with me, Mugdha Mishra. From the fastest supercars to the sleekest new energy vehicles to your trusted daily ride, we cover it all. Every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.